Hello, sports fans, and welcome to the Scott Sports 101 Wild Card Sunday games. Your Wild Card weekend continues. We're going to talk about the early game and the one that's going on right now. And later on, we'll preview tonight's game. Uh, but first, here is today's Scott Sports 101 Wild Card trivia question. And the Chiefs are the second team in NFL history to have a 4,000 yard quarterback, Alex Smith, uh, well, uh, 1,000 yard running back, Kareem Hunt, 1,000 yard wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, and 1,000 yard tight end, Travis Kelsey, who was uh, the other such team. I'll have the answer later in the podcast. Your Super Wild Card weekend continues. We're gonna start with the early game that took place. Uh, Actually, before we get to that, we're gonna talk about last night's game to recap that one. I'm sorry, so we'll do that one first. Before we do that one, I didn't get a chance to recap that one, and that was between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this was a game where the home team dominated, and uh, Lamar Jackson handed off to Derrick Henry and then slid out to the left as he still had the ball. A couple of linebackers shifted into Jackson's path, leaving the middle open for Henry to run through for a 44-yard touchdown. That's the uh, quandary Jackson and Henry create for defensive players. First, they have to figure out who has the ball, and if enough people are out of position, either Baltimore Star can make you pay. Jackson threw for 2 touchdowns and a flawless first half. Henry scored twice while leading Baltimore's devastating running game, and the Ravens beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 28-14 last night to advance to the second round of the AFC playoffs. Uh, Jackson and Henry had the Steelers chasing shadows all night as Baltimore out outrushed Pittsburgh 299 to 29, and it was the most yards rushing allowed by Pittsburgh in a playoff game, breaking the mark of 232 set by the Oakland Raiders 51 years ago. My dad's proud. Jack Harbaugh's proud right now. He likes to pound the rock. Ravens coach John Harbaugh said Derrick Henry was running hard, physical. Lamar Jackson started it off. Lamar carried the ball at different times in the first drive or two. The Ravens move on to face either Buffalo or Houston, and it will be Buffalo. And I'll recap that game for you in just a moment. And after jumping out to a 21 to nothing lead at halftime, uh, holding on against their AFC North rivals, Baltimore had a 19 to 2 advantage in the first half in first downs, in the first half, when the Ravens produced touchdown drives of 95, 85, and 90 yards. Henry ran for 186 yards. Jackson, the two-time MVP, still seeking a postseason breakthrough, made it clear from the start he was going to make Pittsburgh, who fell to 10-8, defend his arm and his legs. He kept the chains moving, and the Ravens, who are now 13-5, were happy to advance the ball uh, uh, methodically against a Steelers team that had relied heavily this season on forcing turnovers. They understood how to win a football game like this, Harbaugh said. It's one thing to know. It is another. It's one thing to know it. It's another thing to execute it and do it. And they did it. Uh, Pittsburgh's season ends with 5 straight losses, 2 of which came in Baltimore. The Steelers, the ending was a familiar story for the Steelers, excuse me, who have lost 6 consecutive playoff games. The last 3 times they've been in the postseason, they've fallen on the road in games that have exemplified the gap between Pittsburgh and the conference's true contenders. They were better. They were the better group today. That was obvious. Steelers coach Mike Tomlin said the X factor was Lamar's unique talents. It seems like every time we've gotten behind him, uh, the sticks, he made up for it. The Ravens had 10 touchdown drives of at least 90 yards in the regular season, the most by a team since at least 2000. They started at their own 5 on their first possession and drove 13 plays for a touchdown. The Steelers have made a habit of recently winning tight games against the Ravens, capitalizing on Baltimore's mistakes. The Ravens avoided that problem Saturday, taking few major risks. Uh, uh, they did. They did get creative on the first drive, lining Henry up for a direct snap from center while Jackson came across and faked a sweep. Henry kept the ball for a 34-yard gain. Jackson capped the postseason with a 15-yard scoring strike to Rashad Bateman, who was Baltimore's top healthy receiver, with Zay Flowers, who had a knee injury, was unavailable. Jackson went 16 of 21 carries and attempts for 175 yards and rushed for 81 yards. Henry made it 14-0 with an 8-yard run and 4:09 left in the half, and the Ravens didn't attempt a single pass on that 13-play drive after a Pittsburgh punt. The Steelers called timeout on 3rd and 2 from the Baltimore 18, hoping to get the ball back, but the Ravens converted and then quickly moved into position to score. On 2nd down from the Pittsburgh 5 with 11 seconds to go, Jackson nearly used up the remaining time scrambling around, but he eventually dumped the ball off to an open Justice Hill, who went into the end zone with 2 seconds remaining. I just think in his head, he knows what 11 seconds is. Harbaugh said the clock was going a little faster for me in my mind. I'm like, throw that thing away. He threw it, and it was a touchdown. All I can say is wow. I think I said wow about 7 times right there. The Steelers drove 98 yards for a touchdown on their first second half possession, with Russell Wilson throwing a 30-yard scoring pass to Van Jefferson. Baltimore quickly answered when Henry broke free up the middle for his 44-yard TD. Wilson answered with a 36-yard touchdown strike to George Pickens in the third, but that was it for the scoring. Wilson went 20 of 29 carries and attempts for 270 yards on a night when neither team turned the ball over. This was the second highest rushing total of Henry's postseason career, and the only bigger one came in the same stadium 5 years earlier, and to the day on January 11th, 2020. As a member of the Tennessee Titans, he ran for 195 yards in a win over Jackson and the top-seeded Ravens. I can't just hand off the ball minus 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, I'm just chilling, Jackson said, when they're attacking him. And I'm fresh, just making my job a lot easier. We just piggyback off each other. Pittsburgh Pittsburgh Dan Jr. Tight end Dan Jr. Injured an ankle. Jackson said he took a knee to the back and was wrapping it. but wasn't limited by the issue. The Ravens need Denver to win at Buffalo on Sunday if they're going to host the game next weekend, but that is not going to happen because they are going to Buffalo to play the Bills. And if that would have happened, Houston would come to Baltimore. If not, as I said, Baltimore will head to Buffalo for a matchup between Jackson and fellow MVP candidate Josh Allen. The Steelers enter the offseason after Wilson and Tomlin were able to get them, to the playoffs, but a once promising season ended with a thud. So I got to give the game balls to the Baltimore Ravens. I have to give them to them. Lamar Jackson, 16 of 21 carries and attempts, 175 yards. 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry, 26 attempts, 186 yards. And Isaiah Likely, yes, it's Isaiah Likely. Three receptions, 53 yards. Pittsburgh falls to 10-7, and the Ravens go to 13-5. And we're going to get to the Denver Buffalo game in just a moment. But right now, it is time to reveal the answer to today's Scott Sports 101 wildcard trivia question for today. And the Chiefs are the second team in NFL history to have a 4,000-yard quarterback, Alex Smith, 1,000-yard running back, Kareem Hunt, 1,000-yard wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, and a 1,000-yard tight end, Travis Kelce. Who was the other such team? And if you said the 1981 San Diego Chargers, you are correct. Quarterback Dan Fouts, running back Chuck Munkle, wide receiver Charlie Joyner, and tight end Kareem and tight end Kellen Winslow. And I have another trivia question on my next podcast, which will be for tomorrow's wild card game. So stay tuned for that. And right now I'm gonna shift gears here and recap the early game. And for the early game, I'm going to be a recap right now. Josh Allen threw for 2 touchdown passes. James Cook scored on a 5-yard run and finished with 120 yards rushing. And the Buffalo Bills leaned on a balanced offensive attack in a 31-7 win over the Denver Broncos in a wild card playoff game earlier today. The Bills methodically were worn down. The Broncos the Bills methodically wore down the Broncos by scoring on 6 of their first 7 drives and building a 31-7 lead in a game where they finished with a 23-minute edge in time of possession. And Buffalo didn't flinch after rookie Bo Nix capped Denver's first play of the game, opening drive with a 43-yard touchdown pass to Troy Franklin, and that was Denver's only touchdown of the game. They never did scored again after that. With Buffalo leading 13-7, Allen broke the game open with a 24-yard touchdown pass to sliding running back Ty Johnson in the back of the end zone on a 4th and 1 with 3:06 left in the third quarter. I've been saying it all year long that Ty Johnson's the best third down back in football, Allen said. The things that he is able to do for us, the way we communicate him in the pass game, blocking and running the ball, and he does it. He does it all, excuse me. I am so happy for him, so proud of him. he made a heck of a play, and it was fourth down, no point in holding and taking a sack there. They played man coverage, and I just gave him a chance. On Buffalo's next possession, Allen completed a 55-yard pass to Curtis Samuel on the first snap of the fourth quarter. The five-time defending AFC champion Bills advanced to the divisional round for a fifth straight postseason, and they will face the third-seeded Baltimore Ravens next weekend. The Ravens are coming off a 28-14 win over Pittsburgh. As I recap over Pittsburgh on Saturday, routed Buffalo 35-10 at Baltimore. In Week 4 this season. The outing will mark the second playoff meeting between Allen and Baltimore quarterback Lamar Jackson after Buffalo defeated the Ravens 17-3 in the 2020 divisional round. Well, they've got us after us earlier. After they got after us early this year, Allen said, facing the Ravens again. So we've got a lot of film to watch. It's a great team. It's a great quarterback, obviously, with Lamar and what he's able to do. He is one of the most dynamic, if not the most dynamic quarterback in the league. He's so much fun to watch. But I'll be watching their defense this week, so that's our focus. It became Buffalo's first player to top 100 yards rushing in a playoff game since Hall of Famer Thurman Thomas had 158 yards in the 1995 wild card playoff win over Miami. Allen finished with a 20 of 26 for carries and attempts for 272 yards and increased his playoff total to 23 passing touchdowns, breaking the franchise record of 21 held by Hall of Famer Jim Kelly. The seventh-seeded Broncos were outclassed in their first playoff appearance since their Super Bowl winning season in 2015. Knicks finished with 13 of 22 carries and attempts for 144 yards in an outing where Denver punted 4 times and turned the ball over on downs twice. After the Broncos' attacking defense was kept at bay by an Allen-led attack that was more than content in gaining small chunks of yards on lengthy time and consuming drives, the Broncos, who had an NFL-leading 63 sacks this season's sacked Allen just twice in a game where the Bills punted once. Allen had what appeared to be the thumbnail on his throwing hand peeled back in the fourth quarter. He stayed in the game to complete the drive, ending with Tyler Bass hitting a 34-yard field goal before giving away to backup Mitch Trubisky. It's good. I've just got a little blood there. It's fine. We're fine. Allen said of his thumb. Trailing 7-3, Cook scored the go-ahead touchdown with 2:03 into the second quarter to cap a 13-play, 81-yard drive. All three of Buffalo's first half possessions featured 11 more or more offensive snaps. The Broncos had little response in the first half that ended with Denver trailing 10-7, and Will Lutz banked a 50-yard field goal attempt off the right upright as time expired. The miss was Lutz's first since Week 10, when his 35-yard attempt was blocked by the Chiefs to preserve Kansas City's 16-14 win. Lutz had since converted 41 consecutive attempts, 13 field goal, and 28 extra points. Including the playoffs, Buffalo has improved to 13-1 at home since the 2024 loss to Denver on November 13th, 2023. The only loss came to Kansas City in the last year's division playoff round. Buffalo is 16-5 all-time at home in the postseason. The Broncos dropped to 2-7 in the wild card round, with all 7 losses on the road. Broncos backup linebacker Jonah Ellis did not return after hurting his shoulder in the first half. Bills cornerback Taron Johnson returned after being examined for a head injury in the first half. Rookie running back Ray Davis did not return after being examined for a head injury in the third quarter. Davis was attempting to catch a pass when blindsided by safety Brandon Jones in a helmet-to-helmet in the third quarter. Jones was penalized for unnecessary roughness, and the Broncos, their offseason will begin, and the Bills will host the Ravens next weekend in a matchup of 2 quarterbacks selected in the first round of the 2018 draft. And right now, I got to give the game balls to the Buffalo Bills. I got to do that. Josh Allen, 20 of 26 carries and attempts, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns. James Cook, 23 attempts, 120 yards, 1 touchdown. And Curtis Samuel, that's who it is, yeah. 3 receptions, 68 yards, 1 touchdown. Denver falls to 10-7, and the Bills go to 13-4. And so that means the AFC divisional round is set. The Texans will go to Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City to play the Chiefs, and the Ravens will be in Buffalo to take on Buffalo next weekend. And right now, we're in the NFC wildcard games. The first one's going on right now. It's the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers, the Eagles are up 10-0 in the third quarter with 7:33 to go. Second and third at the Philadelphia 23. The Packers have the ball. And I'm going to recap the first half right now. First quarter, the Eagles scored their first touchdown of the game. Jalen Hurts pass short up the middle to Dotson for 11-yard touchdown. It was a second and 9 at the Green Bay 11 for that. And at the Green Bay 15, Jordan Elliott's extra point was good. And it was 7-0 Eagles. And the Packers had to punt after going 3 and out. After going 3 and out, 3 plays, 2 yards. Then the Eagles had to punt after going out 3 and out, 5 plays, 18 yards. Then Green Bay had to punt after going 3 and out, 6 plays, 11 yards. And then Philadelphia tried to score a touchdown, but they had to settle for getting in the field goal range. It was 4th and 10 at the Green Bay 13. Jordan Elliott's 31-yard field goal is good, and it was 10-0 Philadelphia. Green Bay had an interception near the end of the first quarter. 2nd and 7 at the Green Bay 33. Jordan Love pass deep intended for Wicks. It was intercepted by Slay at the Philadelphia 22. Slay to the Philadelphia 22 for no gain, and it was 10-0 at the end of the first quarter. Second quarter, the Eagles had to punt after going 3 and out, 3 plays, 1 yard, and then it was a 4th and 13 at the Philadelphia 20. Brandon McManus' 38-yard field goal was no good. It went wide right, and it was a missed field goal, and it was still 10-0 Philadelphia. Then Philadelphia had to punt after going 3 and out, 3 plays, 5 yards, and then Green Bay had their second interception again of the game. 2nd and 10 at the Philadelphia 48. Jordan Love pass short middle intended for Heath, intercepted by Bond at the Philadelphia 39. Bond ran out of bounds at the Green Bay 45 for 16 yards. And then Philadelphia had the punt after going 3 and out, 3 plays, 1 yard. And at the end of the first half, Jordan Love kneels at the Green Bay 10 for -1 yard. It was the 1st and 10 at the Green Bay 11. 10-0 Philly at halftime. And now Philadelphia had the punt after going 3 and out, 5 plays, 2 yards on the current drive. Second and third to Philadelphia, 23rd. Jordan Love pass incomplete. Deep left to Dubs. And Maddox, Green Bay running back, I think it was Dubs, was injured during the play. Penalty on Green Bay. Telford, offensive holding, minus 10 yards enforced at the Philadelphia 23 for no play. And that is where we stand right now. And this evening, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will take on the Washington Commanders at Raymond James Stadium. We'll preview that one a little bit later. And tomorrow night, the Minnesota Vikings will take on the LA Rams, but it's not at SoFi Stadium because of the wildfires. It has been relocated to State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. So it is not in Inglewood, California at SoFi Stadium. It's at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Well, that's just about going to wrap it up for the. Actually, before I do wrap up, Baltimore played solid football. Denver was held to just one touchdown, and they didn't do anything right. But Buffalo really got going in that second quarter and never let up. And they just played solid football, and they deserve to be moving on. And last night, the Ravens they dominated that game and held Pittsburgh to just 2 touchdowns. So it's going to be Baltimore in Buffalo next weekend. And Houston really managed to hold their own against the Chargers. But, I mean, Jim Harbaugh played a hard game. His team did, but it did not bode well. It just did not go their way. And 32-12, the final score in that one. And I give the game balls to the Texans and C.J. Stroud, Joe Mixon, and Nico Collins, who I game to last night. And but the Chargers their offseason begins as well. So we have just a couple of more wild card games after this one tonight and tomorrow. So we shall see. Now that's just about going to wrap it up for the Scott Sports 101. Early wild card game post game show and late game wild card update show. I'll be back with the late game post game show. And we'll also preview the Sunday night wild card game, Sunday night football wild card game between Tampa Bay and Washington. But until then, always remember, be a team player each and every day in every way possible. So long, everybody. 3, 2, 1. I'm done.